Good evening, friends, and welcome to another episode of Tim Kirby Russia. I know I said I wouldn't come back till fall, but hey, circumstances can sometimes drive us forward. Weird, strange things are happening in our world, and so I decided to do this live stream, which you are probably watching as a recording, okay? Why am I doing this? Because it is Trump's moment of truth. That's probably going to be the title of this episode, Trump's Moment of Truth. Why? Because this morning I was having a very pleasant but also weird conversation with Working Brother. I think. Here, look, before I talk to a conversation about Working Brother, and he's free to call in, by the way. I'll tell you, a couple weeks ago, this wasn't the time I got a TV company fined in Moldova for what I said on their airwaves. The same people invited me to speak again, only this time I was more careful to dance around Moldovan censorship and not get them fined. But the person who introduced me, she was like, okay, well, Tim, as a Trumpist, that's what they're called in Russian, Tim, as a Trumpist, could you explain to us Donald Trump's actions? And I'm like, whoa, who put me down as Mr. Trumpist? Or, I don't have a Trump tattoo. I didn't personally swear an oath of loyalty to him. I'm not working in the White House. So, uh, so to that woman, I kind of said, hold on here. I'm on the side of truth, not the side of Trump. And I think with the conversation I had this morning with Working Brother, it was a little bit of the same. Because he was sort of getting into, for those who don't know, Working Brother is a fantastic channel on Telegram. You should go look for it. Working Brother. The icon is white and black, and it's kind of like his face in Photoshop. Anyways, so we're talking about Trump, and basically the sort of thing that's happening right now is there's this very exciting conversation about Trump. Since he attacked Iran, or he certainly doesn't deny that it was his will that certain sites within Iran were hit by missiles. Is this the moment where MAGA dies? Is MAGA dead? Was Trump a stooge of the Zio clique, or whatever we can call them? My YouTube channel is restored, so I have to speak carefully. Is he part of Click Zio? Is he just a fake neocon? Or is this some kind of 5D chess? And as you guys know, I'm not a big fan of 5D chess. I can explain that very quickly. Why I usually don't believe that a lot of politicians engage in 5D chess is because if you create an extremely complicated plan that depends on each part of the plan going correctly, it is virtually impossible for it to happen. Okay, that's one of the reasons why in a lot of video games they don't allow you to kill characters, because as soon as a character dies, later events in the game have to then include the sort of state whether this character could be there or they're dead. And what happens if that happens to multiple characters? All of a sudden the potential amount of options that there could be by the end of the game explodes exponentially, and that's why video games tend not to do that, okay? And that's the same thing with playing political 5D chess in real life. The more times you have sort of a yes or no or binary decision, very quickly the exponential growth of 2 can go very, very quickly up. So, but does 5D chess happen? Do sometimes people in the political world do play extremely complex games, or they're relying on certain results? It can. They can. So what do I think is actually happening with Trump here? So we have the sort of 5D chess side of things. This is all gamesmanship. MAGA is still on. Or the other side, Trump is part of the bad guys, or he's just some weird egomaniac, and he's a traitor to MAGA, and MAGA is dead. All right. So I would say that, well, the thing is, this might be kind of sound like a cop-out answer, but there's a couple things I have to say. The first thing I told Working Brother is, the first major issue is, I live in Russia. That might sound like a weird thing. What I told him is, it'd be nice if Trump saved America, but I don't have to do copium for Trump because he's not my guy. My guy is the bald guy who's slightly under average height, who's here. I probably shouldn't mention on YouTube. All right? So that's issue number one. Issue number two, is he a traitor to his ideas or not? Why it's going to be a cop-out? Because when time's going to tell, very soon we're going to see whether Trump actually engages U.S. forces now in a real war against Iran, or Trump is actually doing his weird, I attack you, but then I mysteriously stop attacking you. What am I talking about? If you remember back to his first presidency, there was a moment when CNN's Fried Zaharia, or is he Zakaria? I don't remember how it's pronounced, but he's a scumbag. Scumbag, neocon, proof that you don't have to look European to be a neocon shitbag. He came on and one day said, now Trump is finally the president of the United States. Even CNN, liberal, neocon, globalist CNN one day praised Trump. What they praised him for? When he shot, I believe it was something like 72 missiles at Syria. Half for some hit. I think it was maybe only like 30% hit or something. Syria was borrowing a lot of interesting gear from the Russians. But anyways, what did that accomplish? Not a lot. Syria fell many, many years later. But Trump made some military-industrial complex spending. He acted like a neocon. He got that stamp of approval, even from CNN. And then he just kind of vanished. The same thing is with the Houthis, because everyone was sort of laughing like, haha, Trump lost to the Houthis. On the other hand, he kind of lost, but on the other hand, he kind of just did the same thing. He shot some rockets in the desert, killed a couple people in the middle of nowhere, and then was just like, okay, now we're done. So we have to wait and see. Similar, he didn't ever attack North Korea, but remember the threat levels to North Korea. Oh, the insane threats. But what did he say? Like, North Korea will burn in a fire of hell or some shit like that. And North Korea, that was also somewhat resolved peacefully. So in a lot of ways, Trump sort of gets really, really aggressive, may actually use violence in a limited scope, and then kind of just backs off. Because still, as of now, Trump hasn't started a war. And again, this isn't like copium for Trump, because for me, personally, I care in the sense that I want the United States to win. Well, we can get back to that. I want the United States to be a good place to live, and will survive into the future, and most people will be happy. You can't make everyone happy all the time. Abraham Lincoln. But you can at least make a lot of people happy, right? That's what I'd like to see. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I'm not there anymore, whatever. Okay? But anyways, so Trump is on this sort of like mode where he is either going to then repeat history, and now that he's sort of attacked Iran and destroyed their nuclear facilities, he can all of a sudden just sort of declare this is over and then pull out. Maybe. Or he'll actually send the United States into a war with Iran. And well, let's talk about the consequences of that action pretty soon. All right. But first, if you have any questions, guys, you can write them anywhere on Tim Kirby Russia Hardcore. They'll appear in what I call the chat. So anywhere on the Telegram channel where you're watching this, all the questions go to the same one single place. So if you write, I will be reading them. It doesn't matter what post you comment under. It could be a post that has nothing to do with this. They'll all go to exactly the same place. But anyways, let's carry on. Before we get to the consequences of if Trump actually does go through with this and brings the United States into a war with Iran, which again, time will tell, and that time's not going to be a long time. Guys, you're not going to have to wait very long to find out the answer to that question. All right. But again, what are the reasons? Why do some people? Because again, with Working Brother today, he was kind of getting into the thing of like, oh, people are just, they're carrying the copium for Trump. And I was like, well, I can kind of see that. And there are people who they really jump onto a certain politician, or I don't know. Heck, it could be even people in like the music industry, any famous person, and then justify anything that famous person does, even if they have like some bad behavior on the side, even if there's something like, I don't know. Elon Musk is a big fan of Nikola Tesla, but I believe Tesla actually lost all of his wealth due to gambling. So there you go. The gambling side of Mr. Tesla, not so good. His creative, scientific side was pretty good. You know, you kind of have to look at things objectively. But anyways, with Trump, I just want to sort of explain my own sort of then view on Trump. If we go back in time to, well, that would be 2016. I know for a lot of people who might be watching this or live in America or in the West, back in 2016, we were sort of at the beginning of maybe not the beginning, I think it was one of those moments where you're starting to really feel that whole LGBT drive, that like push to the transhumanism agenda, the globalist thing. I felt that as a teenager because I'm from the hood, baby, and we got that whole right from the beginning. So I've been feeling that for a much longer time, but I think the sort of Hillary versus Trump like presidential campaigns back then, still for a lot of people in America, I don't think they really saw that the United States was on like this kind of crash course into the globalist agenda, which I don't think is going to work out in the long run for the United States. But anyways, even back then, it was sort of like, well, what's the difference? You can either pick Trump, who sort of promises stuff that kind of sounds okay, and as someone who lives in Russia, he sort of, well, I'll put this way, and I've mentioned this before many times on this channel, despite the fact that there was absolutely no benefit to saying it publicly, he said publicly he wanted to get along with Russia. That's insane. That is the worst thing you could have said in a presidential campaign in 2016. Just the frickin' worst choice. But he said it, and he actually kind of never went back on it. So that made me, at the very least, and not just that, a lot of things about Trump. The fact that, he's independently wealthy. He also is one hell of a media manipulator of his own right. He's not exactly your normal U.S. Candidate. It gave me some optimism. Not a naive optimism that Trump would come in and change the world, because the abilities of the President of the United States are limited by the Constitution on purpose, and they're limited by the deep state not on purpose. But anyways, he was a better choice than Hillary Clinton, which I could see from my own time as a teenager in the United States, that her logic, her worldview is the death of America. She might not see it that way, but that's the way I see it. And so I gave my support for Trump in election number 1. So then we get into election number 2, where it's Trump and Biden. All right. And, Trump will be what? Trump and Biden round 1. Yeah. No, not round 1. The only round, because then it's Harris. Right? Getting confused. Trump versus Biden. And the thing is, again, Trump's first presidency did see 4 years without a new war starting. Maybe some stagnation, maybe Trump kind of ordering the U.S. troops out of Syria and then no one following his orders. A lot of problems, a lot of problems. Not something idyllic. Also, Trump making a lot of compromises on the people who are around him, but whatever. I don't know, maybe a slow death for the United States would be the better option. At least provide some hope for the future. Maybe could fix some things and so on and so forth. So again, with this whole Biden is a reflection of your Clintons and your Obamas and your that type of person. And again, I don't think that is a successful course of the United States. Biden comes out on top. He is the declared winner, and he is president for 4 years. And then we get into the whole thing where, to what extent was he actually the president? We saw a lot of problems in the United States, and none of them got fixed. Natural disasters happened where, like, North Carolina, Hawaii, then later in California. Did anyone get any help? No. Like, the United States, greatest superpower that's ever existed in human history. Can we deal with the fire? No. So a lot of problems under Biden, and definitely... we got into the whole maximum super COVID restrictions, which you can't really talk about on YouTube, but you guys all know how that was. Absolute, some sort of deep jump. But it the actual illness sort of started under Trump, but a lot of the pure madness carried over into early Biden. All right. And we all saw that, and I think that was one of those sort of eye-opening moments for a lot of people where they were like, oh my gosh, we are really in deep trouble here. Later, we come on to then another election, and we have Harris, who is, again, just a reflection. I don't think her actual personality matters. I think she's just kind of a placeholder person. But the exact same sort of views on reality in the world that the rest of the Democrats sort of hold, which I, again, don't think works for America. I think the whole Biden presidency, to what extent he was actually really at the helm or other people were, essentially that worldview really proved that it is completely and totally failing. Trump comes in, and we continue to support him. And it looks like he's exposed some stuff, some USAID, some secret files. He started Doge, but then got in a fight with Elon Musk, which is awful. I don't know, there seems to be some sort of inner battles happening. But as we look at this sort of like brief history of Trumpism, one of the reasons why I have continued to support Trump throughout all this is, despite his failings, there's really like no good alternative. And I don't mean that in the picking the lesser of two evils, because Trump at least advocates things that aren't evil and sometimes tries to do them. Whereas when you get into who else, basically, what else? What else can you really throw your support behind the United States? Any sort of like workers, socialist movement is essentially like the Democrats, but maybe less talented. Like, you know, how are you going to get around that? And then if you get into the sort of the more Republican side of things, yeah, let's turn the country over to libertarianism. That'll never happen. No one will ever get that done. So there was essentially Trump kind of came into this empty vacuum and provided some actual, maybe theoretical solutions of where the country could go to save it. And so that's why I throw my support behind him. But, you know, I don't have Trump tattooed on my arm. I don't work for Mr. Trump. I'm not opposed. Donald, if you ever, you know, need an American ambassador to Russia, I'd be happy to do his job. But you know, so that's where it is. So for me, like, if Trump tomorrow goes full true neocon, and after all this time, because remember, the October 7th attacks happened during Biden still. So after all this time, the United States has supplied some weapons, intel, like shot a rocket or two, or three, I think 6. And that's about it. And again, when it goes back to, like, you know, the Zio clique controls everything in America, they have total control, then why didn't the United States enter the conflict in Israel on October 8th? And are they going to now? So, again, I think things are a lot more organic and complicated than they might seem. So I think it's really a bit early to maybe burn your Trump hats. But if he does send, you know, actual troops in to fight Iran, what's going to happen? Well, first off, he's going to lose. If you were to go back in time and sort of read the opinions of a lot of independent military experts, the Iranians are very, very well prepared to fight, especially against the U.S. Navy. They got the right stuff. They got a lot of it. They've been preparing to fight one enemy over the past 40 years. So they're very well prepared. That's number one. Number two, I don't think that they're going to surrender just from being bombed or blasted or losing guys. And three, they are on a landmass. And how the hell... okay, the United States was able to send troops all the way across the world, land, and fight and defeat Saddam Hussein's army, which is kind of impressive. It is impressive. Maybe for some people it was a reminder of the beaches of Normandy or whatever, but it worked out. But it did help that they had allies with like the Saudis and all that. But still, they were able to fight a land war successfully enough at the beginning. Well, a land war they won, a land occupation they didn't. To get the guys in there and whatever. Okay, cool. Is that going to work in Iran? No. Iran is a whole nother ballgame. And what I mean by this. So if Trump does, for some reason, decide to enter the United States into like a real war with Iran, the United States will lose. What that loss is going to look like, I don't know, but I don't think that they have the capability to do so. There aren't enough soldiers. Aircraft carriers are too vulnerable. It would seem that a lot of the stockpiles of weapons have really been drained, and there isn't much ability to really replace them. How are they going to maintain the supply lines? How are they going to get over there? Are they really going to try like a Normandy D-Day landing in Iran? I don't think with 21st technology that's going to go too well. But anyways, this is sort of like why I called this episode, I think I called it Trump's moment of truth. Is because this really is his moment of truth. If he goes and sends the United States off to war against Iran, it's probably going to cause that final sort of domino that will actually, and to my great sadness, maybe destroy the United States. And I'm not saying that to be cute or to be Alex Jones. It's the end of America. No, I think it actually, in that instance, really, really, very well could lead to the beginning of the end. And so, yeah. So if Trump does choose to do that, then I'm going to burn my MAGA hat. I don't have one. I want to say MAGA hat. MAGA hat. I don't have one, but I could buy one and burn it, because then he has really, and we'll find out in the next few days. Then he really has betrayed all the things that he purported to believe in, and he will wind up destroying the United States. But what was the alternative? Harris, Biden, Clinton? Hey. But if Trump does what he tends to do, of a lot of bluster, shoot something, blow up some dirt, and then pretend like he won, and then go back to business as usual, then maybe it might be worth cleaning off our MAGA hats or MAGA, I should say. I'm from Ohio, I should say MAGA. And continuing on into the future, So anyways, I think we have some comments here. I think that's mostly what I wanted to say, is basically today, as of today, the 22nd of June, a very sad day in Russian history, the day of the beginning of World War II in Russia. So you might want to check out on the channel. I posted an article that is written by me for the International Russophile Movement. June 22nd, the darkest day in Russian history. You can find that on the channel. Hopefully you'll watch it and you'll enjoy it, and you will be find it very interesting. Maybe not my best article, but an interesting one nonetheless. Okay, so let's see. What are some of these comments? Excellent analogy. Thank you. Oh, he's talking to Christopher. Excuse me. Christopher says, Western politicians play chess like a pigeon. They knock the pieces off and crap on the board. Maybe that's a bit much, but, when you get into this whole, like, neocon mentality of war equals money, so we just got to do something. So then I think that's where a lot of that comes from. That's your, like, bribe machine, your Lindsey Graham, your... Like, even that recent interview, Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz doesn't even know why Iran needs to be attacked. He can't even justify it. But he's just like, oh, we gotta. Because they gotta get that hit of influx of cash, So I think they knock the pieces off the board out of childishness, but out of this need to feed the machine. Yeah. EJ, Trump is faking attacking Iran, but is letting Israel basically fight alone. Just pretending enough for AIPAC. Oh, that was a question. Is he pretending enough for AIPAC? I don't know. It seems to be from the Trump presidency. When you look at, like I mentioned about how he blew up sand in Syria once to get sort of approval, and why Trump has so much mixed messaging, is I think he has chosen to not go the route of Kennedy and kind of do both. Both play golf with the neocons and maybe funnel them a ton of money, which he has. He's increased the military budget. Funnel them a ton of money, play golf with them, kind of speak their language, and even speak their language of actions, like just shoot you with missiles. We can do anything, but then not really do it. I think there's, in my sort of gut feeling, I think he's kind of playing a double game again. I wouldn't exactly go to the 5D chess level, but I think that explains he has so much mixed messaging. I think not because he's insane or he's an idiot, but because he's speaking to very different groups at the same time. Christopher, the U.S. was able to invade Iraq because Russia allowed logistics through Central Asia. Oh, well, yeah, I think that was more Afghanistan. I think Russia actually did initially sign off on Afghanistan. I think Iraq, they came through Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, or mostly Saudi Arabia. But anyways, both of those wars relied on having help from allies, and I don't know if this time it's going to be exactly the same. But basically, if Trump tries to send the U.S. Navy to land and take, by guys in boots with guns and, machinery as well. There's going to be various APCs and stuff. And he tries, to fight this, what's called a resisted landing. That's what D-Day was, because the Germans resisted. The British, Americans, and Canadians trying to land, resisted landing. And he tries that in Iran. it won't succeed. They did the supply lines, even if they do make some initial success and they're able to sort of break through, I don't think they'll be able to maintain the supply lines. I don't think they have the manpower. I don't think that they have the equipment. I don't think that that's going to go well. I think it'll wind up with them just getting absolutely blown to bits. And again, there is no element of surprise of that kind of thing in the 21st century. So, again, Christopher continues, all Iran's important stuff is nowhere near the sea. Well, yeah, that too. And it's a lot of territory. And again, okay, so let's say they create a beachhead on the sea. Again, I'm not a military expert, and maybe I shouldn't pretend to play one. But as I just wrote in this article today, that one thing's just with the German Blitzkrieg, when they first, started Operation Barbarossa on June 22nd, 1941, and they invaded the Soviet Union. Things went really well at the beginning, and they just started getting worse and worse and worse. Why? Supply lines. And also, a lot of their vehicles need to be repaired. How are you going to repair things in the middle of a field when the German technology is complicated? So the farther you stretch your supply line, the more difficult things get. And if you imagine that, especially with, first off, all the friends of the United States are just bums. Britain has no military anymore. France kind of does. The rest of Europe, they're just a bunch of clowns. Can they really contribute to a land war in Iran? I think only to a limited extent. So the United States has to do this all by itself. All right. So first off, Iran is very far away, and they'd have to maintain supply chains to there, and then they're going to try to push inland, and the farther you go inland, the farther you are from resupply. I don't know. To be honest, I don't even know how. I guess over down the river, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Is that how they resupply U.S. bases in the Middle East? Or is it just friendly countries allow them to send those big, super heavy transport cargo jets just over their territory? That I don't know. But guess what? If they rely on friendly countries letting them fly jets to resupply, the Iranians might have something to say about that. If you have to send a boat up the Tigris and Euphrates rivers to resupply U.S. bases, then guess what? The Iranians can pay someone to cause trouble on the river. It's just trying to fight on the other half of the globe is just a terrible idea. And the farther, what I was saying with the German analogy, and also the farther they'd get inland, the more difficult the supply chain would be, because it's not like, it's not like a video game where we go to a different continent and we can just set up a bunch of farms there. You know what I mean? It's not like they could fight some sort of land invasion and then all of a sudden be like, well, this is our cattle ranch, so we can send a bunch of stakes up to, up 100 kilometers for where the boys are fighting. That's not how the world works. That's only the way video games work. So again, but let's get a little bit back to Trump here. We're going on too far of a side. It's I think all of you guys understand, I should hope you understand, that trying to actually conduct a land invasion of Iran, who is going to get the support, necessary support from Russia, China, and maybe others, and maybe even without their support, is going to be one hell of a job, and it could have major blowback in the United States, because it will probably be also the first war since Vietnam where the United States takes some. Well, the United States actually didn't take significant casualties in Vietnam. It's just that the media showed everyone. But they're going to take a lot of losses, and it is going to turn into a tragedy, and guess who would get blamed? Trump. So a certain special person in my life is writing, remember, weapons of mass destruction. This war is not really about Iran's nuclear capabilities, so maybe Trump figures bomb the nuclear facilities and it's over. Yeah, that's what I was kind of just mentioning about how it's this sort of Trump thing of, I'm going to take an action, I'm going to say it's over. It's over now. We're done, and then let's just forget about this. Meanwhile, I don't think the Iranians are going to say it's over in terms of the attack against Israel. I don't quite know what's going on there. So, yeah. And also, one thing you have to remember too is get into the mind of I think, because maybe many people who are interested in politics or Russia are maybe more people who are more ideological. They tend to be Christian or people who believe in things. Well, when you're someone who really believes in something and you have sort of these big ideas about it, you naturally are going to be willing to sacrifice for it or something like that, right? Whereas if you really are like a corrupt politician, think about also what's happening from the standpoint of corrupt politicians. Well, they can see that they're seeing that Israel is kind of falling apart right in front of their faces, and maybe their first reaction is, how am I going to get bribe money now? Where's the next source of income? It could literally go that way. So you have to remember that, like I've said before on this channel, bribery buys 59 standing ovations for Mr. Netanyahu when he visits Congress. So far, it hasn't bought much action out of the U.S. military. There you go. Christopher Baird says, unless Iran detonates a test nuke. Well, that's something I don't know. That is something we all don't know. If they actually do go that route, well, things could be bad for everyone because who knows how other countries will react. Who knows what the effects of that will be. So yeah, that's the one thing we really don't know. So I don't know, and no one knows what Trump is thinking. No one knows what Trump is thinking, but this is his real moment of truth. Is he going to actually diffuse the situation, declare victory, and just sort of let it go? Or is he going to throw the entire United States economy and a big part of its military onto the altar of saving APAC? Like, I don't know. We'll see, guys. We'll see. Anyways, someone wanted to call in. Bogdan is here. Hello, Bogdan. Thanks for being a long-time listener. Oh, not too much. I hope. Wait. I should probably do it this way. Okay. All right. So, yeah.
Okay. So, is United States government so corrupt? I thought this one the European.
Okay. Well, that was a short one. Hold on. Okay. What's that? So the question is U.S. government also corrupt? Well, the problem is like, I don't want to sound too emotional because Russia's had many corruption scandals over the years, and I think it's going to continue to have corruption scandals for the eternity. China's had many corruption scandals. It's just they tend to execute the people who are guilty of them. So I don't want to get into a pot calling the kettle black fest here. Or say that Russia is somehow different and people in Russia are just inherently better. What I can tell you is that the founding fathers cannot be blamed for the fact that they really didn't see like the future of media and how things were coming forward. And basically, what is it? The statistic costs a couple $1,000,000 to get elected to Congress. The salary of a congressman is what, 200,000 some dollars. There you go. That's the bribe machine in action. In order to play the game and be in Congress, you have to get elected, and to do that, you need to run an election campaign that costs an insane amount of money, and you have to get paid off for that by various organizations and political action committees and this, that, and the other. And so that is one major form of corruption that's in Washington, which I wouldn't say is, neck out of alignment. I wouldn't say that's unique to the United States completely, but definitely our electoral system, which you've probably heard people say campaign finance reform. That's what they're talking about. Is in certain countries they sort of have like a budget for political campaigns, so they have to be like the same price, or the government themselves actually gives each candidate X number of money to spend. So there's a lot more control over it to eliminate the problem. The other major source of corruption is the classic military-industrial complex, which, for those of you who are also fans of Judge Napolitano, there's a lot of overlay between us here at Tim Kirby Rush Hardcore and the Judge Napolitano universe. On his channel, people who are more eloquent than I am have explained how you can go from being like in the army, retire early, go work as a lobbyist, immediately. So while you're still in the military, you're already working sort of with the military contractors. Then you go in to become a super lobbyist and get paid, or, there's a lot of blend between actual people in the military, the lobbyists for the military-industrial complex, and people in Congress. And you can sort of move from position to position in order to get what you need financially. So that's another sort of major element of corruption in the United States. And for those of you who want to get me on Judge Napolitano, I haven't heard anything out of you. So some people said you were going to harass the judge and his assistant Chris and get me on the program. He knows exactly who I am, and he knows he should have me on the program because it'll be amazing. And I will have views that don't exactly line up with some of their guests. The only thing I can say is I love Judge Napolitano's show. I love his guests, but they seem to be one thing where I disagree with all of them recently is they are very much in the camp of politicians should do what they say, and they seem all very angry at Trump before he's really put the final chips down on destroying the United States. So I would say I think people are being a bit alarmist a little bit lately, but yeah. Okay, if anyone else wants to call in, you can use the raise your hand feature and you can jump on in. Bogdan is back. Was there something else you wanted to say? I will turn your mic up and turn mine down.
Yeah, they can. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, when you're gonna have a discussion about economics of the war? Because what I saw, and I saw, I think on every single analyst, I'm following New Atlas, I'm following George Napolitan, I'm following everybody. What I saw, nobody is talking about the economics.
Well, the economics of
Nobody.
the economics of what war? Which one?
Of every single war, because you do not have a war in principle, you have a war because of the money, because somebody wants to have some advantages, because
Oh, okay.
somebody wants to steal something.
All right, well, hold on, Bogdan. Okay, okay. So, anyways,
Is
thank
it?
you. Sorry, your microphone is a little even hard for me to hear. So, I'd imagine people on YouTube, because everyone says my guests are always a little quiet, even if I have you blasting on my speakers, you're still quiet on YouTube. So, anyways, for those of you who maybe couldn't hear, the kind of question was, well, why don't people do something? And the problem is, you really can't ask negative questions. Why someone didn't do something. This is something I get accused of constantly. Tim, you didn't do this, therefore you're a traitor. Tim, you didn't do this, therefore you're the worst foreigner in Russia. Right? You can't really get too mad at people over what they didn't do, because basically the things that you didn't do in your life are essentially infinite, whereas the things that you did do are finite. It's kind of a non-starter question. So why doesn't Judge Napolitano talk about maybe a certain issue? I don't know. He maybe it didn't occur to him. He doesn't want to, or maybe they have. I think they have actually kind of gotten into discussions about the whole like military-industrial complex. I know Colonel McGregor on his program has talked many times about and Larry Johnson has talked. Both of them have talked about how there's the interplay between Congress and the military, and the military industrial complex, the contractors. So they've talked about that. They've talked about all that. So yeah, if you want to talk about like something like how war is sort of like a game of Keynesian economics, where you can, build a bunch of stuff and blow it up just to pay to build a bunch of stuff, and they've even talked about that a little bit on his channel, about how in Russia, in some ways, we're living the Keynesian high because we're building a ton of stuff, lots of government spending on production of this, that, and the other, and it has really increased Russia's GDP. The one thing I still don't understand, because I'm not an economics expert. Remember, this is Tim Kirby, Russia. I'm an expert on the media. I could say I've written a lot about geopolitics so much that maybe I can become an expert on it, but I'm not an economist. But I can tell you one thing, is that I don't understand this concept of the Russian economy. It's too hot. It's too hot. The GDP growth, it's too high. Yeah, I guess after you have explosive growth, you could maybe get to the point where, it levels off or something. There's a financial bubble where people really overestimate like the value of something. Like the initial like websites, people really overestimated the value of a lot of websites, and it crashed. But I don't think that there's this massive super over evaluation of the value of stuff in Russia that's happening. It's not like, especially with sanctions, it's not like the Russian growth has caused Warren Buffett to come here and just be like, oh my God, I have to spend at least $100 billion on everything in Russia because it's going to be so amazing in 10 or whatever 20 years. And like, there's no bubble happening. I don't get it. I don't understand how an economy can be too hot. Maybe someone can tell me in the comments, how can an economy be too hot? The Russian economy, it's too hot. It's too hot. What does that mean? I think it might be bullshit. I don't know. So, anyways, let's see. Do we have any questions? The U.S. Christopher again. The U.S. is the most corrupt country on the planet. They make Ukrainians look like amateurs. Well, again, I don't want to get in the pot calling the kettle black, because there have been, especially not Tambov, Tomsk. So not Omsk, but Tomsk. I knew someone from there, and at the moment he and I worked together, the previous 3 governors had all been arrested for corruption. They achieved the corruption hat trick to arrest three governors in a row. Things happen. Then again, I guess it's a good sign where people at least get arrested for stuff. So yeah, the final one got arrested because he allowed knowingly for them to build apartment buildings around a major brewery. Apparently, the gases that come out of like a big brewery, like we're talking, I don't know, 10,000 bottles of beer a day, some titanic amount of beer is being produced. But apparently, the gases that come out of that need to sort of dissipate into the air. Not that they're toxic, but they're toxic in large quantities. And they built apartment buildings right next to that sucker, in him knowing it. And that's what he got busted for. So, an example. But if you want to talk about the scale of corruption, well, I'll put it this way: the military budget of the United States is now over $1 trillion a year, and they seem to be running out of a lot of equipment. That is a big amount of money going into a very, very dark black hole, from whence it shall never return. You see what I mean? So maybe in terms of like comparing local currencies and the fact, like the congressional corruption you talked about today, and the military-industrial complex are super gigantic in comparison to some like police officer in the Caucasus Mountains taking bribes to give bimbos their driver's license, you know? So, but again, I don't want to, I think corruption is a universal problem. It's sort of like, I don't know, what are all the banes of humanity? Like murder, theft, hatred, uh, street violence. Yeah, in some places there's a lot more of that, and in some places a lot less, but it's everywhere. You know what I mean? Like people are like, oh, Japan is so safe. They still have murder there. People in Japan do kill each other, just way less often than, say, like, Colombia, I would assume. You know, a lot of cartel, narco, gang action down there. Probably a much higher murder rate than Japan, I would presume. But still, Japanese people can do horrible things to each other, too. Just because they're very clean and organized and all that doesn't mean that they're not human. All right. So, anyways, anything else here? Oh, Anne wants to call in. Good. A new caller. Anne, hello. My mic's going to go down. Yours is going to go way up.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, super job. Let me leave it with this suggestion. I think we should help Donald Trump do the right thing. And if you can send letters, contact representatives with intelligent reasoning how to do the right thing, that'll help him. He's undoubtedly under a lot of pressure, but let's not omit doing that.
Boy, how can I really respond to that one? That was more of a statement. Does it hurt to contact your local representatives? No, but again, we kind of talked about. Okay, so I'm Billy Bob, a senator in Kentucky, right in the middle of the United States. Senator from Kentucky. I have the choice. I have the option to get reelected and make a ton of money from Political Action Committee X, or I can read your fan letters. This is one of the reasons why a lot of protests and stuff don't really actually do anything. I think people really overestimate, especially in the West, the ability for like writing letters and stuff in protest. This kind of stuff works in Russia and China. Why? Because the powers that be here made a sort of decision that they're not going to allow any sort of revolution to happen. And so they constantly monitor public opinion all the time. And so in some ways, you actually get more democratic juice for your squeeze because Russia and China are very paranoid about any sort of revolution happening. So they kind of know what issues are becoming hot, and then they throw water on them to cool them off. Whereas the United States, you're effed. They know you're never going to rise up, or they're not thinking about it. And also, the United States is kind of not really centralized, so you don't really have this sort of like centralized brain that's worried about its own survival. So I don't know. And I think your intentions are honest, but I don't think it's super effective. For example, how many times have you actually seen a protest work? Sometimes they do, but how often? Has any war in the United States, including the Vietnam War, ever actually really stopped due to a protest? No. One thing is, I hate. I actually just saw someone on VK wearing a shirt that said "Free Palestine." Free anything with the hashtag is bullshit. It's never happened. Has there ever been a time where we had free someone, X person, and just a lot of people saying free this person worked? Maybe but I think Nelson Mandela may have actually served out his term. Well, of course, South Africa fell apart. Maybe Nelson Mandela. And then also, but then again, the South Africans of the apartheid state were under a lot of international pressure. So it probably wasn't the weird people wearing t-shirts. Essentially, we've been sort of tricked into this sort of really egotistical mode that we can, well, if I write an open letter, or if I wear this t-shirt that says Free Palestine, I'm changing things. You're affected, maybe if you wear a t-shirt that says something that is thought-provoking, you're maybe affecting public opinion on you're a human billboard. So it's maybe a public opinion little battle there. But I don't think it's game-changing in any sort of way. So, yeah. Sorry, Ann, I'm going to have to disagree. If you feel that Trump needs to feel that he has public support, that helps. But again, very few leaders, I don't quite understand why. This is one thing, maybe because they're afraid of letting the cat out of the bag. Despite the fact that generally, at least in our 21st century, in our multipolar world that's emerging, a very, very popular, powerful central figure seems to be the way to go. Maybe not infinitely powerful, maybe not, true autocrat powerful, but a powerful central figure seems to be the cornerstone of societal stability. But very rarely do those powerful central figures actually use their abilities. I'm always stunned to the extent that Putin actually doesn't use the masses he could. It's like he faces a lot of problems, but he really doesn't use the masses to solve them. Maybe he's afraid of things getting out of control. I don't know. But yeah. Anyways, let's see. Bunk to Bunk is called in. Are there any comments? Sorry, we're going to end this on a pessimistic note. But also, I do believe you have the right to write your officials. Just like in Russia, everyone has the right to send a formal request to President Putin. Will he actually do it? No. But all of them are read. All of them. Calling in after... Oh, Christopher wants to talk. Hello, Christopher. You're here? Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Whoa, you go.
Okay. Concerning the economy and inflation and overheating and all this, it's basically nonsense being by Russian banks. Putin and the government have figured out that slowing monetary velocity and keeping interest rates high prevents inflation. Bankers do not like this. A high inflation rate increases monetary velocity and increases their profits. The Russian economy is not overheating. The Russian economy is doing very well because wealthy Russians have to invest in Russia. If they try to squirrel money away in the West, they'll lose it all.
Christopher, I think you just mentioned. What do you think then? Do you think that maybe those kind of economic factors could be one reason why Putin isn't super motivated to make the war end quickly, the right way, the way that people sitting at home in their one-room apartments say he should fight the war?
Why should he? Basically, the West is sitting on the battlefield behind Ukraine, slowly cutting their own throat. So why should he interrupt them while they're doing this? He's bleeding the West to death very, very inexpensively. He's not losing a lot of men, and he's just slowly taking over Ukraine. And this will continue until there's nothing left of it.
All right. Well, thank you very much for calling in, Christopher. I put you back on the lowered your volume there. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons where, again, things look really different from the top. And from the perspective of your average person, you'd want to think, oh, you got to get the war over with. Trust me, guys, I want the war to get over with. I'd really love the war to get over with on a personal level. But you know, when you're seeing just how quickly from the beginning of the actual special military operation, how much Russian society is changing and in the right direction. It's almost like a lot of the changes that Putin was trying to do or continues to do with Russia, they were going on a pretty steady like march in the right direction, and then it hit the SMO and it just spiked. It seems like it's really like almost like society's being reformatted in a really good way. And so I can also see if I was sitting there with the Russian Security Council, I'd be like, okay, the economy is doing amazing. We've got construction all over the country. You know, by the end of this thing, we probably will lose 100,000 guys, but we'll also have a gigantic army. And as we've talked about in this program before, something you don't hear in other places, the Russian army is getting really, really Christianized. So we're going to have a lot of religious people coming back home to their wives. They're all going to have the money to put down money, money on homes. They're all going to have new job skills. Let's let this one go, baby. I think that's probably it. It's one of these sad things where it's like, well, if we have to lose 1,000 guys a month for X number of months to achieve this sort of like not greater Russia in terms of land area, but a greater Russia in terms of like becoming a different entity, I think that they're just gonna let it play out. And I probably would do the same thing in their position. So again, the world looks very different from the top. Remember, for those of you who play video games, when you are playing any sort of video game that involves armies, there's no way that you are not going to lose some of your guys. So basically, if you're fighting, you're going to lose somebody. And you're going to have to just sort of accept that. And yeah. Things look different when you're at the top rather than at the bottom, where we live. So, okay, were there any other questions, or am I going to get out of here? Bokani, oh hi Bokani, it is good to see you. You've been here with us for a long time. Thank you for your support. Oh, that's one thing about support. Oh, I should probably get my Boosty up here. I'd really like to thank the people who have stuck with me on Boosty, despite I've been kind of oh my gosh, taking kind of a break. From my usual Tim Kirby Russia demands here. So let's see. If you enjoyed the live stream, then donate to my Boosty. The Boosty for the American Village. Trust me, the American Village is always full of new fun expenses as I try to get this thing filled up. Who knows if it ever will. But yeah, so you can donate. So I'd also like to say to really give my heartfelt appreciation to some of the people who continue to supply donations despite the fact that I'm on a little bit of a hiatus here until fall. But I just this morning I kind of woke up. I had a really nice business trip recently. I kind of woke up in a good mood, and I knew after talking to Working Brother that I would have the energy and the will to do this live stream right now. So yeah, and if you're watching on some other platform, you watch the recording, remember sign up to Tim Kirby Rush Hardcore on Telegram. And yeah, if you enjoy what I do, send a donation. But the main thing, our main mission, is get me on Judge Napolitano. He knows me. He knows I'm good at speaking. And then he's probably never heard me give a speech. That's the problem, because Tim in real life likes to listen. Why do I have so many weird stories for these podcasts? Because I'm actually more of a listener when I'm in real life. I want to hear what other people have to say. But when I have the microphone, then I'm the one who tells one hell of a story. So maybe Judge Napolitano doesn't know that I'm actually quite good on the mic. But anyways, that's our mission, friends. I guess I'm going to sign out. There doesn't seem to be any more questions. I think Bogdan wanted to call back in, but I don't really like to allow 2 calls. Once we get in these like 5 calls, it just gets boring for everyone. Nothing against you, Bogdan. That goes for everyone. Yeah, I guess that's it. Anyways, guys, Tim Kirby Russia signing out. You have a